Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to look ahead to Week 16 in the NFL, and I'm very glad, because Week 15 was brutal. I hated it. I took so many L's, I can't even stand up, but thank God Cooper Kupp kind of saved my day a little bit with a little ladder bet. Other than that, I don't want to see Week 15, in the words of Kevin McAllister, my whole life. That's right. I don't want to see any of you jerks again, but these two jerks I love. Pat Fitzmaurice, Sam Hoppen, they're not jerks. They're great people. They're going to help us through. Take a look at the week ahead. We've got Thursday action, Saturday action, Sunday action, Monday action, you name it. We've got the action for you. And of course, we're going to go through all of them here and try to give you our early take on some of the games. And of course, if you want to win some free stuff, drop your comments below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You just might win a 1-year free premium upgrade to Betting Pros, the best betting tools on the planet to help you get all of the best bets at the right time. Make sure you download the Betting Pros app too, and you might get 3 free days of premium if you're an iOS member right now. So go ahead and get that bad boy in. And don't forget also to tune in to our Fast Break Bets NBA show every single Wednesday and Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, where Matt Modi is taking you through the best in the NBA. Again, Wednesdays, Fridays, 11 a.m. Eastern. Join the chat right here on our YouTube channel. Gentlemen, I don't even want to talk about Week 15. It's over. It's done pretty much. I got one more game left. Hopefully that won't kill me. We'll see. But let's look ahead. Let's take a look. And let's start here with basically is a playoff game here, Pat. We've got the Los Angeles Rams, 7-7, taking on the New Orleans Saints. This one's in LA. The Rams are 4-point favorites. That feels right to me. 44.5 is the number. That feels right to me at -110. The best number you can get right now for New Orleans is +175. Pat, the Rams, a good road almost victory against the Ravens. They fell a little short in OT. Last week, they looked good, but again, kind of took their foot off the gas, which worries me a little bit. New Orleans coming off a big win. They are right in the thick of this playoff hunt here. So are the Rams. What do you make of this line here? Any early value at all on Thursday night?
Yeah, I like the Rams, Joe. They just have a much better offense than the Saints. They can move it through the air with Matthew Stafford throwing to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and they can move it on the ground with Kyren Williams. The Saints have struggled in the red zone, and the Saints have also not been a very good team against the spread this year. They are 4-9-1 against the number, whereas the Rams are 8-5-1 against the number. So they have been a good spread team. I think there's a little bit of value on the Rams here.
It does feel like a little bit. Also, that balanced attack, Sam, of the Rams, I think, is really coming along nicely. Cooper Kupp's health starting to improve, I think, in the last couple of weeks. That's been a huge positive. Matthew Stafford's looked very sharp, but Kyren Williams running the football in the last month or so has been really, I think, the difference maker of this Rams offense looking as good as it has and also getting back into this playoff picture. So do you see value on the Rams still at 4? Or is that already too much for you?
I do. I made this Rams by 5.5. I think, again, Sean McVay has this Rams offense clicking on all cylinders. The Saints' pass defense has been pretty solid so far this year, at least over the past several weeks. But the only competent passing game that they've played has been Detroit in the last month. But New Orleans' rushing defense has been getting worse and worse. Los Angeles continues to want to run the ball, like you said, with Kyren Williams. So I don't think he'll have any issue dicing up this Saints front seven. So I like the Rams a ton here.
All right, let's take a look at Saturday's first contest at 4:30. You got Pittsburgh hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals are road 2.5 favorites, despite the fact that, again, no Joe Burrow. You got Jake Browning playing, but Browning's played relatively well here. Jamar Chase's shoulder in question right now as we're recording this. We don't have a lot of definitive evidence if he's going to play or not yet. It's too early. 38.5 is the number. Pittsburgh at +118. Sam, somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers fired Matt Canada and the offense got worse, it feels like. I don't know how that's possible. I understand Kenny Pickett getting hurt probably, did not help that cause. But, it's really tough here to look at the Cincinnati Bengals in their circumstance being road favorites. But at the same time, at Pittsburgh, it feels right because Pittsburgh has been unable to handle their business. So is this just the right call here? And if so, do you feel good about investing in the Bengals?
I do. If I were to take a side, I'd pick the Bengals. I mean, Jake Browning continues to prove all the haters wrong. Looked a little out of sorts in the first half against Minnesota this past weekend, but then really turned it on in the second half against a Brian Flores defense that has been playing exceptionally well this year. The Jamar Chase injury does concern me a little bit because Browning has thrived off of Yak in terms of his production, and Jamar Chase offers a lot of that. But that said, the Pittsburgh defense just got diced apart by Gardner Minshew with someone named DJ Montgomery as his wide receiver one for most of the game. Cincinnati also lost DJ Reader in this game this past weekend, which is a huge blow to their defense. But I think, Cincinnati is just a slight tier above Pittsburgh at this point.
Your thoughts here, Pat, because again, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the great coach, theoretically that home field advantage, it seems to have dissipated. They lost back-to-back games at home to the Arizona Cardinals and then to the New England Patriots. So, I think we've got to change our mindset. There's value on the Steelers if you want to go take them on the money line, but not that much at plus 118. So I don't know. It just feels like the Bengals, and that's boring, but it feels right.
Yeah, can you imagine, Joe, if someone had told you back in August that the Bengals were going to lose Joe Burrow to a season-ending injury and they would go into Pittsburgh in Week 16 and be favored by 2 points? That just seems kind of unfathomable. And but I get it, because the Steelers' offense looked completely broken against the Colts in Week 15. They averaged 4 yards per play. Pittsburgh was penalized 8 times for 101 yards. So they had more penalty yardage than they had rushing yardage, 74 yards on the ground. This just seems like a team that's falling apart. The Steelers beat the Bengals 16-10 in Week 12 in Cincinnati. So maybe that gives the Bengals a little extra motivation. I do like the Bengals. I don't know if I'm going to bet it yet, because what scares me is that we have seen the Steelers get outplayed and outgained on a bunch of occasions this season, only for them to win the game. Now, it hasn't happened lately. Like the luck has caught up with them lately. But so yeah, like in the pools where I have to make a pick, I'm going to take the Bengals, but I'm not quite sure there's enough value to bet the Bengals.
Yeah, I think you might go some individual props in this game instead. Speaking of inept, though, go ahead. No.
Real quick, before we move on, I actually just got a notification that Mason Rudolph is going to be starting for Pittsburgh on Saturday. And so I think that probably moves the line in favor of the Bengals a little bit. Not much. I don't know if it crosses 3, but yeah,
we're getting Rudolph for Christmas to guide the Steelers offense with his nose so bright. Yeah. It's perfect.
That's why you download my playbook too. Make sure you stay on top of all this news as it breaks. The Chargers are at home. They are taking on the Buffalo Bills, coming off a huge victory. Buffalo looking like they're starting to figure it out. Joe Brady calling plays, balancing the offense, getting James Cook the football. What a concept. They are now 8-6. The Chargers are 5-9. This is a 12.5 point spread here, where the Buffalo Bills are favored by 12.5 on the road. 42.5 is the number, plus 525, a huge number here for the upset by the Chargers. We're going to get Easton Stick. We don't know if we're going to get Keenan Allen. It's a big number here, but after that dominant performance, it feels like, Pat, the Buffalo Bills are back on track. Is 12.5 comfortable enough for you to still invest in Buffalo?
Oh boy, people have been gobbling up the Bills, Joe, because I just checked DraftKings. It's 14 right now. So
it's moved again. Okay.
And it is like policy that I do not lay that many points in an NFL game, but I don't know how anyone could possibly bet the Chargers after what we saw against the Raiders. Does anyone really think that the Chargers are going to circle the wagons for Brandon Staley? Like, that looked like a team that was waving the white flag last Thursday night. So the Bills, after beating the Cowboys, they now have this reasonable path to the playoffs, and they can't afford a slip up here. Hard to imagine them letting their guard down for this one. If I'm going to bet it, I'm going to bet the Bills. I just don't know if I can lay 14 points in an NFL game. It never feels comfortable.
We see that head coach bounce when they get fired quite a bit. But so far in Carolina, we didn't see it. And Sam, this doesn't feel like another time we're going to see it either.
No, the Bills are quite possibly the best team in the AFC. And with the quarterback that the Chargers have now, quite possibly the worst team in the AFC. 14 points is a lot, but they should have no issue with that. I do think if you do want to invest in the Bills and don't want to do it on the spread, Josh Allen MVP at 14-1 right now. I mean, I know everyone sort of thinks that Brock Purdy has locked it up right now, but San Francisco still has a couple tough games to end the season. The Buffalo Bills could win out and take over the division lead by the end of the season. So, I mean, he's playing exceptionally well. I think voters might look for reasons not to vote for Purdy, given all the supporting cast and everything like that. So I think MVP right now, Josh Allen, is probably the best value on the board.
Certainly an interesting one. A lot of quarterback chaos potentially in this next matchup. We don't know if Geno's going to play tonight yet. Game time decision. We don't know how he's going to make it through that game if he does play. And then Will Levis is going for an MRI on his ankle. So the Tennessee Titans are at home in Week 16, 2.5-point underdogs at home. Seattle 2.5-point favorites. You're getting 42.5 as the number, plus 120 on Tennessee. My early lean here, Sam, is Tennessee, because that pivot point to quarterback, I feel much better about Tannehill than I do about Drew Lock. And again, Tennessee is at home. So to me, I think this is actually an interesting game to kind of jump on early before you get some more potential news that could change this one a little bit. What are your thoughts on this game here, Tennessee Titans and the Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, this one was a tough one to get a grasp on given the quarterback uncertainty. I agree that Will Levis to Ryan Tannehill isn't really much of a change. I do think the under for this game is in play. Neither of these teams play particularly fast. They've shown that their offenses can sputter at times. The defenses aren't great, so that's probably the one concern. But I don't really have an early lean on a side for this right now, and think this could be just an ugly game from two offenses that have struggled.
Pat, can you make any money on the ugly?
We've got the West Coast team going to the Eastern time zone for an early afternoon game. So that's the formula. I'm not going to bet the Seahawks. It's just a matter of whether I want to bet the Titans. I don't think they are going to quit on Mike Vrabel, even though they've been eliminated from the playoffs officially. But with Will Levis getting hurt, we're going to get a rusty Ryan Tannehill most likely at quarterback. I kind of agree with you, Joe. If I'm going to bet it, I'm going to bet the Titans. But right now I'm leaning towards just walking away from this one.
All right, Gardner Minshew, coming off a great game, is going to take the Colts into Atlanta. This one's in Atlanta. Atlanta is 2-point underdogs at home. 44.5 is the number for this game. You get Indy at minus 130, Atlanta at plus 110. Fitz, look, this is a huge game for the Colts. Atlanta is hanging on by a thread here, still relevant, but still, I mean, they have got to come up with a big victory. I know Ritter's played better at home than he's played on the road. It was a disaster. They lost to the Panthers. This is a dangerous game for many, many reasons. Just looking at the quarterbacks, looking at the trend lines, all of these things. So, that being said, taking all that danger into account, do you see any early value in Atlanta-Indy?
I do. I like the Colts. The Falcons are 4-10 against the spread this year. Like, they have been a terrible spread team, and they have to be reeling emotionally after losing a game to the Panthers that really damaged their playoff hopes. They needed that one badly. Also, Arthur Smith, Joe, good Lord. The Falcons ran 51 offensive plays yesterday, and Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts either touched the ball or were intended targets on 17 of those 51 plays. So you've got 3 early first-round draft picks selected to power the engines of your offense, 3 of them, and they're only getting opportunities on 1/3 of your offensive snaps. I know this is a betting show, not a fantasy show, but Arthur Smith is not someone in whom I want to invest my money. And in fact, I'm very happy to bet against him.
All right. Sam, are you happy to bet against Arthur Smith and the Falcons as well?
Yep. It's death taxes and Shane Steichen being a coaching mismatch this week against Arthur Smith, to Pat's point. Michael Pittman in the concussion protocol, but they'll have the extra day given they played on Saturday and then play the following Sunday. Steichen also said that there is a chance they get Jonathan Taylor back in this game as well, which would be huge if Zach Moss is out as well. The Falcons just couldn't do anything against the Panthers, and I know it was rainy and that game was gross, but rain typically helps the offense, and Desmond Ridder just had another terrible interception in opponent territory. They can't really do anything. I continue to think that the Colts are they are to an extent over, playing their talent to a point, but they're doing so and stacking up these wins. So I love the Colts in this situation.
All right, let's move on to the next game here on our slate as we continue to break down Week 16 in the NFL here on BP. Cleveland and Houston. Now, hopefully you get C.J. Stroud back in this game. Cleveland is 9-5. Sam, I know you love Cleveland. I know you love that bet that we were talking about not that long ago. They found a way somehow to hang on to that victory at home against Chicago yesterday. Houston, Case Keenum, well, it's okay. We're still going to be winning football games no matter who they lose. It's amazing. The Houston Texans figure it out. D'Amico Ryan's just done a terrific job with that team. Houston at home, -2.5. 42.5 is the number. Plus 115 on the money line for Cleveland. So that being said, do you have any early leans on this game? Because this one is another one that has huge playoff implications, Sam. And Houston's at home, but we've seen Houston in recent weeks also, when the better competition comes to town, they haven't looked quite as good.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one a couple of times when prepping this morning. I do think C.J. Stroud is back in this game. Nico Collins' availability is another big factor in this, but it is as many passing yards as Joe Flacco is throwing for. I think it's making it seem like he's playing better than he actually has since he joined the Browns. Among 48 quarterbacks with at least 75 dropbacks, he ranks 43rd in EPA per play, 41st in success rate, 43rd in CPOE, and 30th in PFF passing grade. So he's not really playing that well. The Browns have come away with some wins, and the Houston rushing defense has allowed a success rate over 34% just once in their last 5 games. They stuffed Derrick Henry this past week. So this is a game that I think that line of 2.5 is right about on. And certainly if I'm betting the Texans, want to wait until we know more about CJ Stroud's health.
Pat, I want to bet the Browns. I think there's something, again, Stefanski, another side of the coach, I think he's done a terrific job here with this team. Defense travels. We've seen that with Cleveland before. I think despite some of the injuries and the issues they've had, Flacco found a way to make some plays. I feel like the Browns feel like they've got a little bit of magic, which is not something that the Cleveland fans are used to seeing. But it feels that way. And to me, this is that statement game here where if you're Cleveland and you're for real, you go in, you beat a young Texans team that's still very wet behind the ears, and at plus 115 on the money line, I think that's where the value is. And maybe to Sam's point, if I like Cleveland, maybe I wait. Because if CJ Stroud is announced in this game, maybe that number changes a little bit more, and I even get something better than the 115.
Yeah, it's not a bad premise, Joe. Bet the team with the better defense in mid-December, late December. So I get that. And we've seen Joe Flacco get this offense moving. He is capable of moving it. I mean, he's averaging 313 passing yards in his 3 starts. Unfortunately, Joe Flacco has also thrown 5 interceptions in his 3 starts. And that's the thing with Flacco. I'm kind of not eager to bet a game with Joe Flacco because he is such a wild card and he can just hand the other team the game with his turnovers. But he can also, if you get the combination of this Browns defense, banged up as it may be, playing like the Browns defense and Joe Flacco clicking, they could, even though this Houston team has overachieved all year, they could blow Houston out of the water. I think the Browns have that sort of top end potential. But right now, I just have no feel for this one, Joe. I don't think I'm going to play it. I
totally understand. These are two teams that have shown you high points and low points, which always makes it tough. And again, looking on the road, I'm looking at value. To me, if this game is a coin flip,
sure,
it's the value of the plus money in Cleveland and the defense in December, as you pointed out. But we'll see. I love CJ Stroud. Nobody loves Stroud more than me. I just feel like Cleveland right now is the side that I'm on in this one. Now, I waited as long as I could because I know yesterday was not a happy day for Packers fans, so we're finally going to get to the Packers here. I waited, let you guys get loose a little bit in the bullpen before we put you on the mound. Green Bay Packers, 6-8, going to Carolina, 2-12. Carolina coming off a victory, Green Bay coming off a loss. Who'd have thought that? The Packers are 4.5-point favorites, minus 110. 36 is the consensus number right now on Betting Pros, minus 225 for Green Bay on the money line, plus 180 for Carolina. Pat, get right game for the Pack? You feel good about this one here?
Oh, goodness. What a difference a week makes, Joe. Just 7 days. And on this show a week ago, Sam and I were full of holiday cheer. The Packers are the inside track for a playoff spot, and they have completely fallen on their faces with losses to the Giants and Buccaneers. Joe, if we stay on this game too long, Sam and I are going to start ranting about how bad Packers defensive coordinator Joe Barry has been.
I don't want to depress everybody. I don't want to bring you down this holiday season.
Suffice it to say that Baker Mayfield just posted the only perfect passer rating a visiting quarterback has ever posted at Lambeau Field. And PFF just gave the Packers the worst pass coverage grade of any team in any game over the last 5 NFL seasons. So, yeah, I mean, not feeling totally great about this team right now. I don't like either side. I'm thinking of betting the over in part because of my lack of confidence in Joe Barry and the Green Bay defense. So, yeah, just move on from me, please, Joe.
Sam, Pat has asked me to push the ball into your side of the court, so the floor is yours. Look, it's Carolina. I know they came out with a victory, but let's not go crazy here. Packers get right, yes. Come on, boys, let's get that cheesehead back on. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Packers will win, but I'm not confident enough to take them on the road against the spread. They've allowed I don't even need to say all these stats that tell how bad the Packers defense has been the last couple of weeks. Here's the one of the worst ones. The Buccaneers had a .72 EPA per play on pass attempts. So every 4 pass attempts, they're expected to score about 3 points. I mean, it was so bad. And I understand you traded away Rasul Douglas. You don't have Jair Alexander, but something's got to change. And you can't just be sitting back playing soft zone defense and expect things to happen. And I think Bryce Young made some decent passes this past weekend. He certainly is showing more lately that he can scramble, get out of the pocket, and Green Bay has struggled with that as well the past several weeks. So again, I think Green Bay wins the game, but I'm not confident to take the 4 points there.
Okay, all right. That's it for the depressing part of the show. We're going to get happy again. The New York Jets, they're eliminated from the playoffs. They are at home against the Washington Commanders. The Jets are 5-9. The Commanders are 4-10. The Jets are 3-point favorites somehow after getting shut out by the Miami Dolphins. Zach Wilson went from player of the week to pariah of the week, and Aaron Rodgers wants to get cleared from practice, but I don't know if it matters now if he still wants to come back. Does he want to prove a point and push the envelope? Who knows? 38's the number, plus 135 on the Washington side. That's where I want to live on this one, the plus 135 on the Washington side. Sam, what do you think? You getting crazy with me with the Washington Commanders or what?
I mean, I don't even think it's getting that crazy. I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Jets. I think Zach Wilson probably gives them the best chance to win, but he suffered a concussion yesterday. Washington, I don't think, if I remember correctly, Sam Howell getting benched wasn't because of injury. It seemed like they were just sort of out of the game, and Ron Rivera made the switch to Jacoby Brissett. Honestly, if they play Brissett and start him, I think the Commanders should possibly be favored in this game. I mean, I don't think they will be because the Jets defense still is a strong unit and Washington's is not at all. But Jacoby Brissett looked really competent in the couple of drives he had against. Yeah, which is, again, something a lot of teams could use these days, especially the New York Jets. So I like the Commanders on the money line. Again, I think with how variable that offense can be, potentially taking on them on some alternate spreads as well.
All right, Pat, Jets, Commanders, thoughts?
I'm fascinated to see the matchup between the Jets offense and the Commanders defense. Like, that's going to be a slow motion train wreck that you just can't look away from. Joe, I don't want to take a side in what to me looks like a really unpredictable game between two bad teams, but I have already bet the under in this game, under 38. The Washington offense has kind of been struggling lately. Like, the Commanders have scored 20 points or fewer in 4 straight games. That includes games against the Giants and the Rams. So it's not like it's just they're running into great defenses that are stopping them. The Commanders throw the ball at a higher rate than anyone else in the league. And although the Jets are bad, the one thing they do very well is shut down opponents' passing games, except for this week against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Jets.
I think the Jets
offense
have quit.
is so.
The Jets have quit. I think it's over.
Maybe they have.
I think
maybe
you saw.
they have.
I think you saw in that third quarter, fourth quarter in that game is like, okay, we're out of it. This is it. This was our moment. Everything was riding on this, Pat. Like. Maybe Rodgers comes back. We stay relevant. We win in division game. It's a huge win against the Miami Dolphins to go into Miami, do that. You had the momentum of the previous week with a huge win, and it all just fell apart. It all just disintegrated. And I think that takes its toll mentally on a team.
I don't know if Sam Howell or Jacoby Brissett are dicing up even a disinterested Jets defense, though, Joe. And
Terry McLaurin had some moments in that game yesterday where I think he reminded everybody just how spectacular of a talent he is.
The sideline catch that got disallowed was one of the craziest catches you're ever going to see. But meanwhile, like the Jets offense is so bad. I think they are capable of making the Commanders defense look good. So I do not see this game getting to 38 points. To me, that's one of the better bets of the week.
Oh, I like that. There you go. Looking at the under.
Yeah, all right. Get it now. It's going to come down. So get it now at 38.
Good call there. By the way, the next game here has a pretty big number, 47 for Minnesota-Detroit. This one's in Minnesota. Detroit is 3-point favorites on the road, plus 140 on the Minnesota side for the upset. I got Nick Mullins this past week. I assume that's who we're going to get again. Detroit at 10-4, big victory for them. Your thoughts here? Does the gravy train keep rolling and the Detroit Lions back on track here, or do the Minnesota Vikings throw a little hiccup in things here for the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's first instinct is going to be to take the Lions after their nationally televised paddling of the Broncos on Saturday night. And after, for that matter, after the Vikings' nationally televised meltdown against the Bengals on Saturday afternoon. I'm not quite ready to believe that all is well with the Lions, though, Joe. That win over the Broncos. Before that, the Lions had not beaten anyone convincingly in a long time. They had bad losses to the Bears and Packers. They squeaked out wins over the Saints, the Bears, the Chargers. So does one game, and we know when the Lions are clicking on offense as they were Saturday night against the Broncos, they can look so impressive. But we hadn't really seen that for a while. Jared Goff had not been playing particularly well. So the Lions are a better team than the Vikings, but I'm not betting this game. I just don't think there's enough value to pull me over to the Lions side.
Sam, is there any value on this game, or particularly in the 47?
I think there's a little bit of value on the Lions. This is the first of two matchups we get in the final 3 weeks of the season between these two games. The Vikings, as we know, love to blitz, and Jared Goff has struggled against the blitz. He has a 60.2 PFF grade, which is 29th among qualifying quarterbacks. But the current way to attack Minnesota's defense right now is by running the ball. I think that's how Detroit attacks it, even though they had a positive pass rate over expectation for the first time since Week 7 this past week. But Jahmyr Gibbs looks phenomenal right now. He is explosive, and I think the Lions are back on track. I mean, yes, it had been a while since this Lions offense had clicked, but they did it against a Broncos defense that had been stifling opposing offense for the last month and a half or 2 months. So I'm excited. I think the Lions hold a little bit of value. This is indoors still, so it's not an away game outside for Jared Goff, and I think Detroit is going to show once again that they're part of the class of the NFC.
Tampa Bay is at 7-7. They are at home, 1-point underdogs at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off another tough loss there for them. Jaguars just seem like a team that just needs a couple more pieces, some offensive line pieces. Maybe next year, maybe they're ready to take that leap, but they're a very frustrating team from, I think, a wagering standpoint. 43.5 is the number. Minus 110 you can get on either side of this game here right now on the money line. And that's kind of where I'm living. It feels, Vegas is telling you it's a pick 'em here, Sam. So basically, do you want to take Tampa at home, who is sort of gaining a little momentum, or a team in Jacksonville that continues to it feels like Jacksonville just spins its wheels a little bit, and maybe Lawrence's health is a big part of that as well. Some of the other injuries that they've had on offense. What do you think here about this one here? Jacksonville going to Tampa. Is this a spot where Tampa really should be the favorite?
Well, it went a little under the radar last night, but Trevor Lawrence is in the concussion protocol as of Monday morning, which again, like there wasn't any real. I mean, I don't think he left the game at all last night, but they also lost Zay Jones to a hamstring injury that I would expect will keep him out of this game. So it's down to Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram, and like the depth that they have at receiver, Jamal Swagnew with a great long touchdown catch this past week. But I don't want to touch this game until we know more about Trevor Lawrence and whether he's going to play.
Pat, I'm into this one. I'm buying the Bucs at home. What do you think?
I bet the Buccaneers today. I got 2.5 points on DraftKings, Joe, and because this game did strike me as a game that should be a pick-em. Like I feel like the Buccaneers are basically a league average team, and the way the Jaguars have played lately, I don't think they've been much better than a league average team. So you throw in the injuries that Sam mentioned with the the wide receiver shortage they have right now, and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think Lawrence will probably play, but if he doesn't, oh boy, I mean, what a value. So I do think this should be a pick 'em, and if you're getting points with the Buccaneers, taking the points or betting the money line makes sense to me.
All right, let's continue on here. We've got a lot of games to get to. Arizona, Chicago. The Bears were in this one. The Bears defense played very well. The Arizona Cardinals defense was a joke. There were guys so wide open. Unbelievable. Over 12 yards. Sometimes some of these guys, either McCaffrey or Debo, were open in this game. It was stunning. The Bears are 4.5 point favorites against the Cardinals in this one. 44.5 is the number, plus 180 on the money line for the Cardinals. It's weird to feel comfortable with Chicago being favored by 4.5 points, but Pat, I feel comfortable that Arizona's not going to go into Chicago in December and win this football game or get close here with the way that defense played. Plus, Kyler Murray got kind of rocked in that game a little bit too. I don't know. I know the Bears are far from perfect, but the Bears have been very competitive, and I think this is finally a matchup that almost goes their way in terms of you're finally getting a cookie, and I think they've been desperate for this kind of matchup, and I think they're getting one here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Joe, laying the 4 points with a Chicago Bears team that and this was the difference between a winning week for me and a juice losing week, Joe. The Bears' inability to close a win they should have had against the Browns. I think that's the only thing that gives you pause. The Bears are clearly the better team here. Their defense has played really well of late. They can move the ball with Justin Fields. And, you pointed out some of the flaws the Cardinals have. I do think there's value in the Bears. We also talked about how with a warm weather team going up to a place like Soldier Field in Chicago in late December, mid-December, home field might be worth more than 2 points. And I think that could be the case here. So yes, I like the Bears. I also think the under might be a pretty good play here because of how good the Bears defense is. And, the Bears themselves are only averaging 19.2 points over their last 5 games. So for the over to land here, both teams would have to click on offense to some degree, and it's kind of hard to see that happening, especially in a game where weather could potentially be a factor.
Sam, what do you think? Chicago, Arizona, you think that 4.5 is safe?
No, I don't really like either side in this one. Looking at the forecast for Chicago, looks like it's going to be a bone-chilling 47 degrees for some December Chicago weather. So I don't think the weather impacts things that much.
Bone-chilling
I think
for
what's
the Arizona
driving,
folks, I can tell you that.
yeah, that is very true. But I think what's driving this total up is just we have two exciting, elusive quarterbacks who can make things happen on the ground. But to Pat's point, this Bears defense continues to impress. The Cardinals offense at times looked like it had some spunk against the 49ers, but Kyler Murray, with him getting banged up, I think the under is the right play in that game.
All right, this is a fun one here. Christmas Eve, 4:25 Eastern, Dallas, Miami. Both teams are 10-4. Miami at home is a 1.5 point favorite right now on the consensus betting pros line. 51 is the number for this game. Dallas plus 105. So look, we got the answer to the question. Is Dak ready to take that step forward and all of a sudden lead a team on the road to a big win? And I think that was a resounding no yesterday, as they got their brains beat in by the Buffalo Bills. And I mean literally and figuratively in this game. Now they're going to Miami. We'll see what your thoughts are here, Sam. But this one, again, Vegas basically telling you to choose your adventure. So which one you want to take?
I'm going with the Dolphins here. We've got a bit of a Spider-Man meme matchup of two teams that haven't really gotten it done against good teams all season. So one of them is gonna have to do that this week. I think there are a couple of defensive matchups for Miami that are pretty big. Christian Wilkins right now playing some really incredible ball on the defensive line, and Zach Martin, if he is out, could make things even worse for Dallas. Jalen Ramsey potentially lined up against CeeDee Lamb when he's lined up out wide. So I think Miami gets Tyreek Hill back for this game as well, and the Cowboys secondary I don't think has not played as well the last several weeks. With all of the firepower that Miami has on offense, I think they're able to take care of Dallas this week.
Pat, to Sam's point, Miami has struggled against teams that, are above them theoretically, right? Punching up has not been their forte. They've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. Dallas is more of a test. They have also failed most tests. So of these two teams that are good against bad, when they're playing each other, who comes out the victor?
Boy, you guys are not going to be on Jerry Jones' Christmas card list this year. Like, Joe, you're just trashing them for how they played against Buffalo. Sam saying they haven't beaten anyone after they squashed the Eagles in Week 14. I'm not going to penalize the Cowboys too much for the egg they laid in Buffalo yesterday, as bad as they were against the Bills in Week 15. I mean, like that game against the Eagles, they were that terrific the week prior. So, but it was good to see that the Dolphins didn't miss a beat without Tyreek Hill and just squashed the Jets. So I do think this is a good line. I can't wait to watch it. I'm not going to bet it.
All right. I don't know if you can wait to watch this one. The New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos, Pat. I know. Get excited. -6 for Denver in their building. Feels about right. Again, it's a lot of points for Denver, but it is the New England Patriots, and they are definitely done. 34.5 is the number for this one, plus 220 on the upset line for New England. Now, look, we thought, they didn't have anything left in the tank, and then they went into Pittsburgh and won a game. Can they steal another one here, Pat? Or do you want to at least be on the side of that 6, that plus number on the New England side, considering all of the shortcomings of Denver?
No, I want to take the Broncos here, Joe, at home. This opened with the Broncos favored by 5.5, and I think some other people saw the value in Denver too because it quickly got bet up to 6. Terrible game for them Saturday night in Detroit. One of those burn the film type games. But the Broncos have been the much, much better team over the last month and a half than the Patriots have been. Like if you take away the Week 15 result and figure out what this line would have been, I feel like it would have been Broncos like -8.5 or something like that. So I'm happy to take the Broncos. I think there's value.
Sam, Broncos or Pats?
I hate that I am on the Patriots again this week. Last week I said if that game gets out to double digits, then take the Patriots. And it did get to 10 at some points, at some places throughout the week, which means if you got that, at worst, you pushed because for some reason Kansas City took a kneel on 4th down with less than a minute left. But Denver still wants to run the ball a bit, and New England's rushing defense is elite. I mean, it doesn't get a lot of shine or credit because of the way the rest of the team is playing, but they are able to shut down opposing rushing attacks, and I don't think the Denver passing attack is really good enough to take advantage of that particular weakness. So in a low scoring game, give me the Patriots again.
Begrudgingly. I'll tell you what, just run to the Javonte Williams under, because Edwards-Helaire had an under. We talked about that on the prop show this week. The week before, it was the under on all the Pittsburgh running backs. That one worked out. Like, just keep taking the unders on the RBs against New England. That's the best bet in this game, period. End of story. Next one here, Las Vegas at Kansas City. Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, they're now 9-5. A victory, but still not a happy one for Patrick Mahomes. 6-8 on the Vegas Raiders after putting up a 63 spot. Now they're going to go to Kansas City. Typically, this would be a smash here. And look, though, Vegas is showing confidence. 10 points here on the side of the Kansas City Chiefs. 43 is the number for this one, plus 375 for the Raiders on the money line. Sam, the Kansas City Chiefs win games, but they still continue to drop passes everywhere. Kadarius Toney, more nonsense. Even Kelsey had a drop there in the end zone. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and company certainly look like a team that is struggling, despite the fact that they are still very much in the hunt for the number 1 seed. So can they win by 10 at home against the Raiders?
Can they? Yes. I mean, they were down, I think, 14-0 to the Raiders in their first matchup a couple weeks ago, end up winning by 14 points. What Vegas did on Thursday night, granted it was against the Chargers team that we talked about, but I can't invest on either side. I mean, like, Mahomes is just, I feel for the guy. Like, he is frustrated. Like, and I don't blame him. So the Chiefs offense still in a funk. I mean, I think there are things that I want to say the drops are not going to hold week to week, but they continue to do so. I mean, Rashee Rice is really the only
he's the lone bright spot right now.
Player on that offense right now. I mean, Travis Kelce, even, it looks like the age is catching up to him a bit. So I'm sticking with some player props on this one instead of a side or total.
Enough. This is the first game of the triple header on Christmas Day. Pat, your thoughts on this one here? Confidence of KC?
No, I'm going to echo Sam's sentiments completely on this one. So Andy Reid has totally had the Raiders number since he took the Chiefs job. Like, the Chiefs have won 9 of their last 10 against the Raiders. They've covered 6 of those 10 games. But I just can't lay double-digit points with the Chiefs offense not firing on all cylinders. And we know they're probably not going to have Isaiah Pacheco back from this one. So they're, parceling out the running game to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon. And the Raiders have been playing really hard for Antonio Pierce. So I can't lay 10, but I'm not betting the Raiders with their tortured recent history against the Chiefs.
All right, the middle game here at 4:30 Eastern, New York, Philadelphia. So you get the Giants and Eagles. Eagles right now minus 10.5 favorites at home. 43.5 is the number. Plus 400 if you like the Cutlets upset. Look, the Eagles are, I think, still a very superior team, no matter what people are saying about them currently. We'll see what happens with them against Seattle tonight. No, they have trouble in the secondary, but look, the Giants, kind of got checked this past weekend by the Saints, going on the road to Philadelphia. That doesn't seem like a good day at the office for the Giants.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, I saw this line and I went through a mental checklist of what I might be missing. I spent 10 minutes, why is this line not higher? Maybe it's because of the ambiguity with Jalen Hurts' status for this week. I think that has something to do. But even if he misses this week, I would imagine he's back next week. So I don't know. It seems like there is value with the Eagles, just the vastly superior team in this matchup.
All right, Sam, vastly superior Eagles. Is that confidence enough for you to go 10.5?
No, it's not. The one thing I'm going to bet on is Boston Scott anytime touchdown. This man is the giant killer. He scores a touchdown almost every single time that they play the Giants. That's my one bet for this game. Throw a little stocking Christmas money on.
He's had 2 carries in the last 5 weeks, so that's a pretty bold bet. But
you know how many carries you need to get a single touchdown? 1. All it takes is 1.
All right, last one here. This is, some people are calling this a Super Bowl preview. I don't know. I mean, Baltimore Ravens might be 11-3, but they bother me. I don't have elite level confidence in the Ravens. They're going to San Fran, who's also 11-3. San Fran is 5.5 point favorites. 45 is the number for this one, plus 180 on the Baltimore side. Sam, I'm going to keep this simple. I think you lock in San Fran now on the 5.5. I think San Fran is a superior team, like I said, to everybody. Not just the NFC teams, the AFC teams especially, but the rest of the NFL. They just feel like a team that is just locked in right now. That pass rush has changed the whole configuration of this defense that was struggling a little bit in the earlier part of the year and making up for maybe some of the things that are lacking in the secondary. I don't know, man. I don't know how you stop this incredible offense of the San Francisco 49ers. So I like this 5.5. To me, it's not enough, Sam.
Yeah, this one was tough. I didn't realize this got out to 5.5 already. I think I much preferred it at 4.5. I think if you like the Ravens, then the money line is the bet. Again, I've mentioned a couple times Lamar Jackson's performance against NFC teams. The 49ers secondary is still a little banged up, and I mean, some of the plays that Lamar Jackson is making are just incredible. I mean, he's keeping that team alive. Some of their defensive playmakers that they have are playing really well. Jadeveon Clowney having a solid season. So I think, again, if you're on the 49ers, that I wouldn't take it past 5.5. If it gets out to 6, I'm probably not touching. But Baltimore, if you do like them, then taking them on the money line to win outright is the way to go.
Pat, maybe I'm crazy. Sam is probably the voice of reason here. I am a little bit more in the how would you say it? Bold maybe is the word for it. I think San Fran's going to win this game by double digits. Like, I'm taking alternate spreads. I'm looking for San Fran to crush them at home. This is in Baltimore. Maybe I have a different set of circumstances, but I don't know, man. I do not have faith in Baltimore.
So if I'm going to be a contrarian, Joe, I'm going to, underscore the point that Sam made about how well Lamar Jackson has historically done against the NFC teams he faces, who are not used to seeing him on a regular basis and have a hard time handling his style of play, which is truly unique. And like also the fact that, the Ravens are a really good team. And I don't like laying that many points to a team as good as the Ravens. But Joe, I hear you, man.
Like, team, Pat, or are they just a good team compared to the rest of the AFC, which is a little mid this year, to be honest?
I think they're a pretty good team. Like, I would stop short of calling them a great team, but they're a good team. The other thing is, Joe, let's remember that the 49ers did have a 3-game losing streak. So this is not an invincible team. They are hitting on all cylinders right now. They are just totally cooking. And I understand I'm not betting against the 49ers right now, but I also don't want to lay 5.5 points to the Ravens. So I'm gonna stay away from this one.
All right. I will be on my island right off the coast of Northern California, sipping the wine and eating the cheese that is the 49ers. I've already bet them to win the Super Bowl. I bet them to win the NFC. I cashed out a couple weeks ago the Eagles bets that I had, which was great because I still got my money back there. And I have chosen a new ship. It's the 49ers. All I wanted them to do was go and prove to me that they could beat the Eagles. They proved that. And it's been no looking back ever since. So give me San Fran. A lot of games, a lot of fun holiday games to get to. Also, don't forget, drop your comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Don't miss all of our coverage to get you set up for a huge weekend of betting. Thursday and Friday, we got big shows coming at you. And every Wednesday and Friday, we got NBA action too. It's that time of year, baby. It's time to make some money with the betting side. Download the BP app right now, wherever you get your apps. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for Sam and Pat. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.